it with the others, Red instructed. The handmaiden collected it from her and headed out of the room. The twins figured this was their chance. May we see the others? Alex asked. The others? Red asked. The other baskets, Alex said. Red was looking at her peculiarly. My brother loves baskets. Connor nodded, going along with it. I do. They're my most favorite thing ever, Connor said. You know what they say? Life is better with baskets. Red was staring at them as if they were the strangest people she had ever met in her life. If you wish, she said, and shooed them off. Alex and Connor jumped up and followed the handmaiden out of the room and down the hall. Where does Queen Red Riding Hood keep all of her baskets? Alex asked the handmaiden and then winked at Connor. She wasn't very good at playing dumb. She has a chamber dedicated entirely to baskets, the handmaiden said. So she has a basket room? Connor asked. Yes, and if you received as many as she did a year, you would too, the handmaiden said. How many are we talking about? Connor asked. You'll see, she said. The handmaiden opened a door, and the three of them walked inside. The room was twice the size of the room they had just been in and was filled from floor to ceiling with thousands and thousands of baskets. Some were on shelves, some were stacked neatly, and others were just piled around the room. The handmaiden tossed the basket from Jack in a pile on one side of the room. The queen gets them for birthdays, holidays, and any special occasion, the handmaiden said. Some are from villagers, some from friends, others from monarchs of neighboring kingdoms. Alex and Connor stared around the room with their mouths open. How would they ever find the basket they were looking for in all of this? Do you mind if we look around? Alex managed to say through her shock. I suppose, the handmaiden said. She looked at the twins curiously and then left them inside the basket room. The twins could barely breathe. They both felt as if a dumbbell had suddenly been tied to their chests. I've never felt so overwhelmed in my life, Connor declared. This is like trying to do the whole summer break packet of homework the day before school starts again, but 1,000 times worse. How are we going to look through all of these? It's not that bad, Alex tried convincing him, but she didn't even convince herself. We just need to start. You take one side and I'll take the other. Let's do this. They split and rapidly began looking through the piles and piles of baskets for the one with the bark rim. They knew they didn't have much time and grew more anxious after each second. They had no idea there could be so many shapes and sizes and designs for baskets. Like snowflakes, each one was different from the next. Alex was paranoid that she had missed it. Connor kept getting splinters and kept shouting, "Ah!" every time it happened. They had been there for almost an hour and still hadn't covered even a fourth of the room. They were making a huge mess. The room was twice as disorganized now as it had been when they entered it. Even Alex wasn't hesitating, throwing around baskets that she had already examined. This is impossible, Connor yelled, kicking a pile of baskets. Just as he kicked the pile, the door swung open, and the handmaiden returned. Alex and Connor froze. She was appalled by the chaos they had caused. I don't know what on earth you're doing, but I think it's time for you two to leave, she said. The handmaiden escorted them back to the throne room. This time she watched them like a hawk as they sat on their stools. Queen Red Riding Hood was literally hanging off her throne and grabbing hold of Jack's chair as she talked to him. The twins had never seen Jack look so bored and lifeless. Neither of them had noticed the twins' return. You know, Jack, Red said, circling his forearm with her finger, the Red Riding Hood kingdom isn't much of a kingdom without a king. Perhaps you should change the name to the Red Riding Hood Queendom, Jack said. Red laughed much harder than she should have. You're so funny, but that's not what I meant. What I'm trying to tell you, Jack, is that I've never been more ready to get married. If someone asked me for my hand in marriage today, I would say yes. Do you know anyone who might be interested in marrying me? In being king? Anyone? A white dove suddenly flew by one of the windows outside and sat on the window ledge. As soon as Jack saw it, his entire face lit up. His eyes grew wide and he smiled. For once, he looked happy. He turned to Red. Clearly, she wasn't used to seeing him like this either. The twins could practically see her heart beating out of her chest as excitement filled her body. Was he going to propose? Was this the moment she had been waiting for so long? Red, Jack said. Yes, Jack, Red said. I have to go, Jack said, jumping up and heading out of the throne room. Red almost fell off of her throne. Go, she said. Go where? Home, Jack called out, not even looking back at her. I'll see you next week. Red crossed her arms and pouted. He was the only thing preventing her from having everything. The twins felt it was best to leave with Jack, so they followed him out of the castle. It was wonderful meeting you, Alex, Connor, Jack said, and shook their hands. Likewise, Alex said. Thanks again for taking us to the castle. My pleasure. I hope to run into you someday soon, Jack said, and then headed in the direction of his home with a new bounce in his step. It was very strange. Jack was now acting like the person Alex always thought he would be. What is that guy's deal? How does someone go from a zombie to a camp counselor in a matter of seconds? Connor said. I don't know, Alex said, looking after him as he walked away. He's a very odd man. Looks like we'll be sneaking into the castle after all, Connor said, and slumped to a seated position on the ground.